So there we have it, folks. Boston have officially been eliminated in round one in the most disappointing and surprising round one exit. Especially if you're a Boston fan, it was a tough Monday, I'm sure. I can't relate. It was a lovely sunny bank holiday here in Dublin, but I empathize because I think probably 90% of people, Boston fans or not, expected Boston to take that series pretty comfortably, win 5, maybe in 6. But when it went to 7, I think the expectation was still there that they were going to get the job done. They were going to do the business in the Garden in front of their fans where they've been so dominant all season, spanking teams left and right. But needless to say, that did not happen. They shot 26% from the field, under 30% in their last 3 games. Absolutely horrendous shooting. And you just can't do that when you're playing Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. What a player, what a fun player he has been to watch. That was my favorite highlight of the series by far. Also, real quick, apologies if you missed the game and were hoping to see some highlights or even still photos of NBA related things on this video. Turns out the NBA isn't too enthusiastic about channels with 0 subscribers posting their content. So I hope you enjoy the gameplay. So anyway, that's it. The Celtics playoffs, that's them done for the year. So now the only question for them is going to be, where do we go from here? Obviously, the answer that is going to be on the top of everyone's head is just run it back. Maybe add 1 or 2 pieces. You definitely need a big guy. But with a fully healed Tatum, him getting back with a full season with a squad, there's no doubt that the Celtics will be very strong next year. Even if they do essentially nothing, they'll be strong. They'll be strong contenders to win the East. And, I certainly wouldn't pick them to go all the way, win a championship. But if you told me that's what happens at the end of next season, they don't change anything, I wouldn't be completely shocked either. On paper, it does sound like a good plan. Obviously, it's very low risk. The Boston management, it's certainly no one's going to get fired if they don't really change anything major. But here's the thing. This is why I think, based on how they have operated, being a very smart franchise, how they've got to where they have over the last 10 years with their rebuild and now just being the most consistent dominant force in the East, I think they might be about to make a fairly drastic change. Now, assuming you clicked on this video of your own free will, and this video isn't so bad that it's being played in some CIA black site as a form of enhanced interrogation, then you already know that I think the change they could make is moving on from Jaylen Brown. Now, I know that sounds crazy. I know what you're thinking. This Irish lad has had one too many Guinness for breakfast. Okay, I get it. But here, first of all, you're from Boston, so calm down, relax. That's very much the pot calling the kettle black. Okay, look, Jaylen Brown, of course, was the number 1 option. He just led the Celtics to the second best seed in the East. They can't possibly trade him, right? Look, I see where you're coming from. But here's the thing. Tatum was there for Game 5 and Game 6. I understand he wasn't at 100%, but nobody was saying a 90% Tatum, and of course the rest of the Celtics who've been playing great all year, and were up 3-1, wouldn't have been able to take Game 5 or Game 6. Forget about him not being there for Game 7, because it did become a toss-up at that point. The idea that they wouldn't have closed it out in 6 when they were up 3-1, nobody was saying that. So it does beg the question, is it time for the Celtics to consider changing something? Perhaps even taking some calls, maybe putting out some feelers there, little back channel. Seeing, is there any, of course there would be, who's interested? What are they willing to give up for Jaylen Brown? Jaylen had a huge season, okay? Based on how he's played, he does not deserve to be traded. This isn't about what he deserves, okay? He was an MVP candidate right up until the last 6 weeks. He was, no, let's face it, he was never going to win, but he was top 5. He was a solid doesn't even, he was phenomenal this year, especially having never been the number 1 guy. He really stepped up to the plate. But if you're thinking about what's best for the Celtics, doesn't necessarily align with what's better for Jaylen Brown. If you're the GM for the Celtics and you get a call, Milwaukee want to trade Giannis for Jaylen Brown. Are you seriously going to tell me you don't even consider that? Tatum and Brown are, of course, a fantastic duo. I get it. But Giannis and Tatum, that has a very nice ring to me. That is interesting to me. Okay? I'll tell you why. Tatum and Brown they're both great. They're excellent two-way guys. Everyone knows that. But the thing is that the only thing better than having 2 guys who are brilliant who do very similar things is having two guys who are great, who do different things, who complement each other, who are able to make up for the other guy's weaknesses and have different strengths so that, well, when we're facing the 76ers, maybe we can have Giannis there in order to, make things harder for Joel Embiid. Like, look, even if you're a Boston fan, you have to say Boston looked a bit small against Philly. I mean, they had no answer for Embiid. And I think a large part of why they struggled in the series is they just did not have a big to even make things kind of difficult for Embiid. He just got comfortable and he grew in confidence. And then all the rest of the 76ers grew in confidence when he started doing really well. But if you add Giannis, well, that's a guy who can give Embiid a lot more trouble than he had. And look, yeah, I know Brown, he's younger. He's only 2 years younger. He's 29. He's almost 30. Giannis is 31, okay? He takes care of his body. He's not going to have the same longevity probably. I mean, who is of like LeBron? He is slowing down a touch, but he's going to be peak. He's going to be near the peak of his powers for at least 4 more seasons. Would I bet more on Jaylen Brown being, who he is at 33 versus Giannis at 35? I think I'd have to take Giannis, especially if he gets his motivation back. Because let's face it, it has not been there for the last couple of years in Milwaukee. I'll put it to you this way. If Giannis was there instead of Brown, and he had the whole year to play with the team and be the number one guy, I think he would have been the guy who's the MVP talks are about. And I think the Celtics are still in the playoffs right now. Now, I'm not saying that you should just blow up the Celtics, ditch Brown for some randos and some picks. Of course not. There's only a few guys that are even worth considering a trade for. But look, at the end of the day, this Boston team, they're not happy with just winning the East, okay? This was so disappointing because with Tatum back 6 weeks, the bare minimum expectations was reaching the Eastern Conference Finals. And really, for being honest, everyone kind of thought that they were going to take their vengeance against the Knicks this year and get to the finals. Now, OKC, that's a completely different animal, completely different story. But the bare minimum expectations was the Eastern Conference Finals, and really it was finals. Not at the start of the season, but after Boston secured the second seed and Tatum comes back, that was definitely what the expectations were. So if you're thinking about what's best for Boston, what's best in terms of actually competing with OKC next season, is Tatum and Brown really going to be enough? I can't say for sure. I don't know. I can't say for sure. Okay. And let's look. Then you also have the whole thing with Brown talking about this being his favorite year playing basketball. Like, I know you had fun. You were the number one option. You were in MVP talks for a while. But like, bro, did you forget you won a chip a couple of years ago? Like, how can you be talking about? I mean, that's a little dicey. How are you talking about this is your favorite year when like the leader of the team is on the bench? I get it for you, but that's just a little too Jaylen Brown focused for me. Okay, that's a potential problem. If I hear that comment and I'm, making decisions for the Celtics, I'm thinking, is Jaylen going to want to go back to being the second fiddle next year? Let's say Tatum starts off a little slow. It's hard to say. Now, look, ultimately, I think he would. I think he's a professional. He's been doing it for many years. But look, that's just another problem of having two guys that play a similar role. There's just less opportunities for both of them. So I'm just throwing it out there. I wouldn't be shocked if we see Jaylen Brown trade rumors in the next couple months. Because while it does seem unfair after the lights out near MVP season he just had, it's painful. It would be a tough decision. It would definitely be very controversial, but it sets up Boston to not only compete next season in the East, but be a serious contender for a second title. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments and drop your boy a sub so I can get some NBA footage over here. Anyway, that's it for now. Peace. Team is on the bench. I get it for you, but that's just a little too Jaylen Brown focused for me. Okay, that's a potential problem. If I hear that comment and I'm, making decisions for the Celtics, I'm thinking, is Jaylen going to want to go back to being the second fiddle next year? Let's say Tatum starts off a little slow. It's hard to say. Now, look, ultimately, I think he would. I think he's a professional. He's been doing it for many years. But look, that's just another problem of having two guys that play a similar role. There's just less opportunities for both of them. So I'm just throwing it out there. I wouldn't be shocked if we see Jaylen Brown trade rumors in the next couple months. Because while it does seem unfair after the lights out near MVP season he just had, it's painful. It would be a tough decision. It would definitely be very controversial. But it sets up Boston to not only compete next season in the East, but be a serious contender for a second title. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments and drop your boy a sub so I can get some NBA footage over here. Anyway, that's it for now. Peace.